It all started on a Monday morning that smelled like wet grass and jasmine. The air was calm, and the mansion was quieter than usual. Sophia, 19, fresh out of high school, walked barefoot across the marble floors of her parents' estate, sipping cold orange juice. She was the daughter of wealth, the kind of girl who never had to ask twice for anything. Sweet, naive, pampered, and yes, still a virgin. Well, that's what everyone believed. Even she believed that, until her stomach started acting funny. It had been 3 weeks of nausea, strange cravings, and a weird kind of heaviness in her lower body. At first, she thought it was just stress. Her parents were constantly fighting. Her mom was barely around, always at some wellness retreat or spa, and her dad had his face buried in business calls. The only consistent presence around the mansion was Emmanuel, the new gardener. Tall, caramel-skinned, rough hands, but gentle. With flowers, he didn't speak much, and when he did, it was with that deep, soft island accent. He was 28, barely paid attention to anyone, and stayed out of the family drama. But for some reason, Sophia started noticing him more than she should. She remembered that day clearly. The sun had been too hot. She had gone outside without sunscreen, and Emmanuel had offered her his water bottle. She had hesitated but took it. They sat in silence, under the shade of a large mango tree. He told her about the flowers he planted. She giggled. He smiled, and somehow, the silence between them felt full instead of empty. The part that made no sense came a week after. She fainted in her room. The maid panicked and called the family doctor. Blood tests, a quick check, and then came the words that crashed into her like a truck. She's pregnant. The entire room went silent. Sophia sat up slowly, blinking. That's not possible, she whispered. I've never even, The doctor raised an eyebrow. I'm afraid the results don't lie. She ran to her room and locked the door. Her mind spiraled. She'd never had sex. Not really, except that one night. Wait, no, could that even count? It had happened, the day after her 19th birthday. She had snuck down to the garden late at night, feeling overwhelmed. Emmanuel had been there, tending to something in the moonlight. They talked. They drank wine from a bottle she stole from her father's cellar. One thing led to another. Blurry moments, soft kisses, laying down on the grass, him whispering he would stop if she wanted. She didn't say no. She remembered waking up in her bed, unsure if it had been a dream or not. She was sore, but she thought maybe it was just the wine. She told herself it wasn't what she thought. After all, she was still untouched, or so she believed. But now there was no denying it. A life was growing inside her, and the only person who could possibly be the father was the gardener. Sophia didn't know how to feel. Shame wrapped around her like a cold blanket. She was terrified. How would her parents react? Her father would lose his mind. Her mother would probably pretend it didn't happen. And Emmanuel, she hadn't even seen him in a week. The next day her mother burst into the room with a face like thunder. You're pregnant. With whose baby? Sophia just stared at her. Silent, broken, her mum screamed at the top of her lungs, accusing her of lying, sneaking around, being a disgrace to the family. Her father was even worse. He threatened to throw her out. That evening, the family lawyer showed up. Her parents had a plan. They'd send her away, hide the pregnancy, make sure nobody found out, especially the press. Their reputation mattered more than her heart. But before they could act, Sophia did something no one expected. She packed a small bag, grabbed her phone, and walked out the front gate, straight to the gardener's quarters. She stood at the door of the gardener's cottage, her heart pounding like a war drum. The small building was hidden behind the hedge maze, tucked into the edge of the estate grounds like a secret the mansion didn't want anyone to know about. She knocked once, no answer. Again, still nothing. Sophia was about to turn away when the door creaked open. Emmanuel stood there, shirtless, sweat glistening on his chest from whatever work he'd been doing. The second he saw her, his face shifted, not in fear, but in something harder to read, a mix of worry, guilt, and something that looked a lot like pain. Sophia, he said softly. I need to talk to you, she whispered. Her voice cracked. It's important. He stepped aside and let her in. The cottage was small, barely more than one room and a bathroom, but it was clean, cozy even. There were books stacked on the windowsill, a half-finished painting of the garden on the wall. Emmanuel motioned for her to sit, but she stayed standing. I'm pregnant, she said, eyes locked on his for a few seconds. The world stopped. He didn't speak. just stared at her, the muscles in his jaw twitching slightly. Then, slowly, he lowered himself into the old wooden chair across from her, rubbing his hands over his face. "Are you sure it's mine?" he finally asked. Not accusing, just quietly. "I haven't been with anyone else," she said, her voice a whisper. He exhaled, leaned back, and looked up at the ceiling like it could offer him a way out. "God help us," Sophia felt the tears coming. "I didn't even know it happened. That night, I thought we just kissed. I thought maybe I imagined it. I was drunk," he murmured, "but not drunk enough. I should have never let it happen. I knew better." She wrapped her arms around her stomach, feeling suddenly small. "I didn't come here to blame you. I came because I have nowhere else to go. My parents want to send me away, like I'm a problem that needs to be hidden." Emmanuel stood up and walked to the window. "I don't have much, Sophia. I don't have money. I barely keep this job. If your father finds out, he'll kill you," she said bluntly. They both knew it was true. He turned back to her. "You should go back. Let them take care of it, whatever they're planning." "I'm not getting rid of it," she said sharply, her voice shaking with defiance. "And I'm not going back there." He looked at her for a long time. "You don't understand the world I come from. People like your family don't forgive things like this. I'm a poor man who made the biggest mistake of his life. You didn't force me," she said. "I don't even remember saying no. I just remember feeling safe." For once, that word, safe, cut through the air. He moved closer, sat down beside her. "Then we'll figure it out." A small flicker of hope lit in her chest, but it was fragile, flickering like a candle in the wind. The next day, the estate was chaos. Her mother was screaming at the staff, demanding answers. Her father was on the phone, barking at lawyers. No one knew where Sophia had gone, until the head maid slipped a folded note onto her mother's vanity. One line, written in Sophia's shaky handwriting: "I'm safe, and I'm not hiding anymore." The fallout was immediate. Her father sent 2 guards to drag Emmanuel out of his cottage. He didn't resist, but as they cuffed him, Sophia stepped out from behind the tree line, camera in hand. She had recorded everything: her swollen belly, his calm voice, the guard's aggression. "You touch him, I leak it," she said boldly. "To every blog, every tabloid. You want your perfect image ruined, Dad." The men froze. Her father's face turned red with rage. "You're willing to destroy this family over a mistake with a gardener," he shouted. Sophia met his eyes. "You destroyed this family long before I got pregnant." That night, Emmanuel was released, but the war wasn't over. The media didn't know yet. The press hadn't caught wind, but someone else had. Someone from Emmanuel's past, and they were coming. The rain started just after midnight. Thunder growled low in the distance as Sophia and Emmanuel sat quietly in his small cottage, neither of them speaking much. She was curled on the edge of his narrow bed, one hand resting on her belly, as if trying to protect the life growing inside. Emmanuel stood near the window, watching the storm roll in. He hadn't said much since she saved him from being dragged off like a criminal. His pride was wounded, his nerves frayed. He wasn't used to being rescued, especially not by a girl like her, rich, sheltered, innocent in so many ways. And yet, here they were, bound together by one moment neither of them fully understood. Then there was a knock at the door. Hard, sharp, not friendly. Emmanuel tensed. His eyes narrowed. He made a slight motion with his hand, a quiet warning for Sophia to stay back. Then he opened the door. A tall man stood there, soaked from the rain, wearing a black leather coat and a look that could cut through glass. His skin was darker than Emmanuel's, his eyes colder. He didn't smile, didn't blink. "Been a long-time cousin," the man said. Sophia's heart skipped. Emmanuel didn't move. "What the hell are you doing here, Malik?" Malik let himself in like he owned the place. His eyes flicked toward Sophia, then dropped to her stomach, and he laughed, low and sharp. "So it's true. You really went and knocked up the little rich girl." "Leave her out of this," Emmanuel said, his voice tight. "Oh, I don't think that's possible now," Malik said, smirking. "The whole crew's talking. You made waves back home. One of us messing around with a client's daughter. That's not just reckless, it's stupid." Sophia stepped forward, angry now. "Who are you?" "Family," Malik said, with a wicked grin. "Unfortunately," Emmanuel sighed, "he's part of the life I left behind." "What life?" Sophia asked quietly. Emmanuel didn't answer right away. His hands curled into fists. Malik didn't wait. Your baby daddy used to run with a crew back in Kingston, not just gardens and flowers. We did what we had to. Guns, debt collecting, smuggling. Malik began, his voice a low sneer. He was one of the best we had until he got it in his head that he wanted a new start. Walked out on us the moment things got complicated. And now, he's playing house with a billionaire's daughter. Sophia stared at Emmanuel, her world tilting. Is any of that true? I left that life behind, he said, the words heavy with shame as he finally met her eyes. I came here to start over. I never wanted you to find out. But she did, Malik said, stepping closer, enjoying the moment. And it's only a matter of time before your old boss finds out, too. You think he's mad now? Wait until he learns his top enforcer has been living a quiet life on his enemy's payroll. The color drained from Sophia's face. In a blur of motion, Emmanuel had Malik by the collar, slamming him hard against the cottage wall. If you came here with threats, then get on with it. I've got nothing left to lose. A slow, cold smile spread across Malik's face. That's where you're wrong, he breathed, easily pushing Emmanuel's hands away and smoothing his jacket. You have everything to lose now, don't you? The girl, the baby, this perfect, fake little life. He paused, his tone shifting to one of mock reason. I came to offer you a way out, cousin. There's a job, one last run, with a payout big enough to let you actually disappear. Take her with you, vanish before your past catches up. What past? What enemies? Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. Malik's smile vanished, replaced by a chilling seriousness. Your father isn't the only one who's angry. Emmanuel didn't just walk away from our world, he stole a great deal of money, left a mess for the rest of us to clean up. And now, they know where he is. Emmanuel said nothing, his silence a confession. Sophia's stomach twisted as she looked between the two men. So, what happens now? Malik was already at the door. You have 2 days, he said, not looking back. Then the past comes knocking. He left them in a suffocating silence. Emmanuel collapsed into a chair, his face in his hands. I thought I could keep it away from you, from the baby. God, I was wrong. Sophia sat beside him, her body trembling. Do we run? I don't even know if we can anymore. The cottage felt colder after Malik left, his words lingering in the air like a poison. Rain began to tap against the window panes, a soft warning of the storm to come. Sophia lay awake all night, staring at the cracked ceiling, her mind a whirlwind. She had always thought love was supposed to be a fairy tale, soft and warm. This was brutal, dangerous, and messy. She was carrying a child for a man with a past so dark she couldn't see its edges, a man she barely knew beyond the gentle way. He planted roses and wiped dirt from her hands. Just before dawn, she sat up. We need to leave. Emmanuel looked over from the floor, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. I can't just run, Sophia. Malik isn't bluffing. They'll find me, so we stay here and wait for them to come and shoot us. She snapped, her fear turning to anger. He flinched at the truth in her words. I have money, she said, her voice softer. Not much in cash, but I can sell jewelry. I can get into the safe. My father is obsessed with contingencies. He has emergency passports in his office. He gave her a tired, hollow look. You want to go on the run, pregnant, with me? I want to survive, she said, her voice unwavering. I want our baby to survive. He stared at her then, and saw that the spoiled, fragile girl he'd met was gone. In her place was a woman terrified, yes, but with a spine of steel he hadn't known existed. You don't understand what you're asking, he whispered. You don't know what I've done. She reached over and took his hand. Then tell me. And for the next hour he did. He told her about the streets of Kingston, about a childhood without a mother and with a father whose only language was his fists. He told her how Malik had pulled him into a crew that did the dirty work for powerful men, intimidation, smuggling, and sometimes worse. I never killed anyone, Emmanuel said, his voice empty. But I hurt people. For money. For survival. Sophia listened without speaking, her fingers trembling, but never letting go of his hand. I left after a job went bad, he continued. A setup. Drugs. Marked money. A double cross. I took what cash I could and ran. Enough to disappear. I thought if I got far enough away, worked with my hands, maybe the blood on them would fade. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Do you regret it? His gaze fell to her stomach. Not anymore. The next morning, Sophia slipped back into the mansion. It was a huge risk. The house was tense, crawling with new security. She moved like a ghost through the servants' entrance and went straight to her father's office, her heart pounding with every creak of the floorboards. She found what she needed: her mother's diamond necklace, cash from a hidden drawer, and the passports her father kept for a world he was sure would one day fall apart. She almost made it out unseen. But the old butler, Mr. Hayden, who had been with the family since before she was born, was standing silently at the end of the hallway. His face was a perfect mask until she turned the corner and heard him whisper into his phone, "She's back, and she's planning something." Her hands were shaking by the time she returned to the cottage. "They know," she told Emmanuel, dumping the money and passports onto the table. "We don't have 2 days. We have to go now." He didn't argue. He just started packing. As night fell, they were driving out of the city in a beat-up pickup truck, with no plan other than to get away. Away from her father, away from Malik, away from the past that was clawing at their heels. But as they crossed the bridge out of town, Emmanuel glanced in the rearview mirror. A black SUV was tailing them. The tires hummed on the wet asphalt. In the mirror, the SUV maintained its distance just far enough to seem innocent, just close enough to be a threat. Emmanuel's jaw was tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "They're following us, aren't they?" Sophia asked, her voice thin. He gave a slight, grim nod. "Been there since the gas station." "What do we do?" "We keep driving. I know a place." She trusted him. After an hour of winding back roads, he veered onto a dirt track, killing the headlights and navigating by the pale moonlight. The SUV's lights eventually disappeared. They found shelter in a small, abandoned farmhouse deep in the woods. The air inside was thick with the smell of dust and decay, but it was cover. For now, it was enough. "You think it was Malik?" Sophia asked, rubbing her stomach as she sat on a dilapidated sofa. "No doubt," Emmanuel said, peering through a grimy window, "trying to scare me into taking the job." She looked at him, her eyes wide in the gloom. "Would you, to protect us?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know what I'm capable of anymore." They took turns sleeping. Around 3 a.m., a sharp bang on the metal gate outside shattered the silence. Then another. "Emmanuel," Malik's voice cut through the night. "Open up, cousin. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I know you're in there. You can run, but you can't erase what you did." Emmanuel put a finger to his lips, signaling for her to stay silent. Malik's voice turned colder. "I told you. 2 days. Now you have until sunrise. After that, I can't promise anyone's safety." They heard footsteps crunching away, then silence. Sophia let out a shaky breath. "He's not bluffing." "No," Emmanuel said. "He's not." By morning they had ditched the truck and were on a bus. 2 states over, they checked into a cheap motel under fake names. That evening, Sophia went to get snacks from a vending machine. Halfway across the parking lot, a car with tinted windows pulled up beside her. Her blood ran cold. The back window rolled down. It was her father. "You're coming with me," he said, his tone as calm as if he were asking her to dinner. She took a step back. "No, I'm not. You don't have a choice anymore, Sophia." One of his men opened the car door, but before anyone could move, Emmanuel came sprinting from the motel lobby, something flashing in his hand. It wasn't a weapon. It was his phone, already recording. "Try it," Emmanuel yelled, his voice ringing with defiance. "Lay a hand on her, and the whole world will see exactly what kind of father you really are." Her father's jaw tightened. "You think this is a game, boy? You think that phone will save you?" Emmanuel didn't blink. "It's already backed up. Try me." There was a pause. Then her father nodded once to his driver. The car sped off, leaving behind a thick tension that clung to the night air. Sophia ran into Emmanuel's arms. "I told you," he whispered. "I'll protect you, no matter what." But even as they held each other, both of them knew it wasn't over. Malik was still out there, and this time he wasn't coming to talk. They didn't sleep at the motel that night. Emmanuel paced the small room while Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees to her chest. Her eyes were red, not just from crying, but from exhaustion. She was in her 2nd trimester now. The pregnancy was real, heavy, and undeniable. So was the danger. "Your father's not going to give up," Emmanuel said, pulling the curtains shut tight. "Now that he's seen you in person, he's going to hunt harder. I know men like him." Sophia looked up. "And Malik, he's worse." Your father wants control. Malik wants blood. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was pride, ego, revenge. We can't keep running forever, she whispered. He sat beside her. I know. Then silence. Sophia finally spoke, voice soft. Do you think I ruined your life? Emmanuel blinked. What? She looked away. If I hadn't shown up at your door that night, none of this would have happened. You could have stayed hidden, safe. He cupped her face gently. Sophia, listen to me. You didn't ruin my life. You gave it purpose. Before you, I was surviving. That was it. But now, he looked at her stomach. Now I have something worth fighting for. She leaned into him, eyes stinging again. But we can't keep hiding, he said. So I'm going to end this. I'll take the job Malik wants. One last run. If I do it, we get enough money to disappear forever. I'll make sure you and the baby never have to run again. Her body stiffened. No, Emmanuel. No, I have to. He interrupted. He won't stop otherwise. And I know that world. I can survive it one more time. She grabbed his arm. What if they kill you? He smiled sadly. Then, at least I die knowing I tried. That night, Emmanuel made the call. Malik answered after one ring. You finally getting smart, cousin, he said with that cold, mocking voice. I'll do the job, Emmanuel said. One run. You leave me and the girl alone after that. Malik laughed. Don't worry. After this, I won't need to chase you. They agreed on a location, an abandoned warehouse near the city docks. The job would be simple, Malik claimed. Move a package, make the drop, get paid, walk away. But Emmanuel knew better. Nothing with Malik was ever simple. The next night, Emmanuel left. Sophia begged him not to go, but he kissed her forehead and promised, I'll come back. I always do. She waited in the motel. Hours passed. No word. Then she heard it, a muffled explosion in the distance. Then sirens. Something had gone wrong. Her heart dropped. She turned on the local news. Reports were flooding in. A shootout at the docks. Police were combing through the wreckage of an illegal weapons transfer. 3 men dead, 1 critically injured, 1 in custody. She stared at the screen. Emmanuel wasn't one of the dead, but he also wasn't the man in custody, which meant, where was he then? The motel door burst open. Sophia screamed until she saw him, covered in blood, limping, eyes wide with shock. Emmanuel, he stumbled into her arms. I'm okay. I'm okay. She tried to hold him up. What happened? It was a setup. He gasped. Malik, he planned to kill me. He sold me out to the cops. I barely got out. He's still alive, but he knows I ruined the deal. Now it's not just about money, it's war. Sophia's whole body trembled. What do we do? Emmanuel looked at her with burning eyes. We finish it. I know where he's hiding. This ends tonight. She gripped his hand. I'm coming with you. No, yes. If he's going to try and destroy us, I want to look him in the eyes when we take him down. They were done running, and by sunrise, either Malik would be gone, or they would be. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the city already felt tense, like it knew something bad was about to happen. Emmanuel sat behind the wheel of a stolen sedan, his left arm still bleeding slightly through the bandage Sophia had wrapped around him. She sat beside him, face pale but jaw tight. She hadn't spoken much since he told her the plan. Malik was holed up in an old safe house in the industrial district, a warehouse he used when things got dirty. No cameras, no neighbors, and no one who cared enough to call the police. Emmanuel knew it well. He used to sleep there when he had nowhere else to go. Back when survival meant doing things he didn't talk about. They parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest on foot. Sophia moved slower now, her belly visible even. Under the oversized hoodie, Emmanuel offered to turn back more than once, but she kept shaking her head. I'm not leaving you again, she whispered. Not until this ends. They reached the warehouse just as the sky began to lighten, casting a dull gray over the rusted walls and shattered windows. The front door was chained shut. Emmanuel led her around the back. This place gives me chills, Sophia said quietly. It should. They slipped in through a side entrance. The air inside was thick with oil, dust, and the sharp scent of something metallic. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Voices low and angry. They weren't alone. I count 3, Emmanuel whispered. One of them is Malik. Sophia tightened her grip on the tire iron she carried. Then let's do this. They moved quietly through the shadows, ducking behind crates and rusted machinery. Emmanuel's heartbeat thundered in his ears. The last time he had been here, He was just a ghost in someone else's game. Now he was fighting for a future. Then came the voice. Didn't think you had the balls to show up again. Malik stepped out from behind a metal pillar, a pistol in one hand, a smirk on his face. 2 other men flanked him, armed and cold-eyed. Let her go, Malik said, nodding at Sophia. She doesn't belong in this. She's not going anywhere, Emmanuel said. Malik raised the gun slightly. Then neither of you are. Sophia stepped forward, trembling but unblinking. You want to kill him? Fine, but you'll have to kill me too. And when you do, the press will have a field day. I've already emailed everything to a reporter. Emmanuel's story, your operation, the names, the accounts. Kill us, and it goes public. Malik's smirk vanished. Emmanuel took the moment. He lunged. The warehouse erupted into chaos. The first shot went wild, shattering a window. One of Malik's men rushed Sophia. She swung the tire iron hard, catching him in the leg. Emmanuel wrestled with Malik, the gun clattering to the floor. They fought like brothers who had shared pain but now had nothing left but hate. Emmanuel took a punch to the ribs but answered with a brutal elbow to Malik's jaw. Blood flew. Bones cracked. They slammed into a stack of crates that collapsed around them. Sophia grabbed the gun. Enough, she screamed, pointing it with both trembling hands. Get off him. Everyone froze. Malik, panting and bleeding, looked up at her and laughed. You don't have the nerve, little girl. But she didn't hesitate. She pulled the trigger. Click, no bullets. Malik stood, towering over her. Wrong move, sweetheart. Then a shot rang out, not from her hand, but from the shadows behind. Malik staggered, then dropped to his knees. Behind him stood one of his own men, the younger one, pale, shaking, gun-smoking. I'm done with this life, the man said softly. I didn't sign up for this. Malik collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. Sophia dropped the empty gun and rushed to Emmanuel. He was breathing hard but alive. It's over, she whispered. He looked around the warehouse, the bodies, the blood, the wreckage. No, he said, it's just beginning. They didn't wait for the cops. They grabbed what they could, left Malik's empire in ashes, and disappeared. By the time the city woke up, the girl and the gardener were gone like they'd never existed. But somewhere far away, in a quiet little town no one had ever heard of, a baby cried for the first time, and 2 people, broken by the past but healed by each other, smiled through tears. 3 years later, the past felt like a nightmare. The coastal town of Red Hollow wasn't marked on most maps. It was the kind of place where people came to disappear and stay disappeared. Emmanuel worked at a small nursery outside town, growing vegetables and flowers the old-fashioned way. His hands were always dirty, his shirt always rolled at the sleeves, and for once there was peace in his eyes. Sophia sat on the porch of their little wooden house, a paint-chipped thing with ivy crawling up one side. She wore an old sundress and held a lemonade in one hand while rocking the tiny chair. Beside her with the other, in that chair sat the reason neither of them had given up, a curly-haired, wide-eyed boy named Leo, their son. 3 years old now, bright, curious, always asking questions. He had Emmanuel's calm and Sophia's fire, and when he smiled, it was like the world forgot to be cruel for a moment. Mummy, can I go water the sunflowers? Water the sunflowers? Only if you promise not to flood them again, she said, laughing. He nodded seriously and ran off barefoot toward the garden. Emmanuel looked up from the tomato patch and gave him a wave. It was so simple, so good. It didn't look like a family that had been hunted, threatened, and nearly destroyed. But the scars were still there, just deeper now. Quiet. At night, Sophia still woke up sometimes from dreams where black SUVs chased them, and Emmanuel still double-locked the doors, even in a town where no one locked anything. But they had built something stronger than fear. They had built home. A letter came once every year. No name, no return address, but Sophia always knew who sent it. Her mother. The first one had said, "I'm sorry." The second, "He still blames you, but I don't." The third came just last week. "Leo looks happy in the photo. You're doing better than we ever could." Sophia never wrote back. There was nothing to say. Her father's empire eventually collapsed under its own weight. Scandals, tax fraud, internal betrayal. Sophia had exposed just enough through the press to start a landslide. By the time it was over, he had been forced into early retirement, buried in lawsuits and shame. She doubted he'd ever want to see her again. Good, she didn't miss the mansion, or the designer clothes, or the cold silver spoon she was born to eat with. All she missed was the garden. Funny how life came full circle. One day Leo asked her, "Mummy, is Daddy a superhero?" She looked over at Emmanuel, who was wiping his hands with an old rag and smiling softly at them. "Yes," she said, "he is." Later that evening, as they all sat under the stars on a faded blanket, Sophia leaned against Emmanuel's shoulder. "You think it's over? Really, over?" Emmanuel looked out at the ocean in the distance. "As over as it'll ever be. You're still watching shadows," she whispered. "Maybe I always will." She reached over and took his hand. "I don't care. As long as we're in the light." Leo snuggled into Sophia's lap, yawning. "I want to stay here forever," he mumbled. "You will, baby," she said. "This is our forever now." And for once, they all believed it.